The Blasphemous games draw inspiration from art to create the twisted world of Custodia and its evocative characters. In this video, we're looking at 10 films that inspired the story and world of the Blasphemous games. First, I'll share the film and what element inspired the games. I challenge you to see if you can guess what it inspired in Blasphemous before I reveal it. Let's get into 10 films that inspired the story and world of Blasphemous. First, we have the film The Holy Innocents. Based on the novel of the same name, The Holy Innocents is a 1984 drama by Mario Camus that explores the struggles of landless laborers in 1960s Francoist Spain. In the film, Regula is a poor laborer and mother who cares for her sickly daughter Chirito. These two characters inspired a couple of NPCs in Blasphemous. The inspiration is drawn most directly from the imagery of Regula holding Chirito and Chirito's screams of pain throughout the movie. Do you know which Blasphemous 2 NPCs were inspired by Regula and Chirito? They are the NPCs Madre and her daughter found in Profundo Lamento in Blasphemous 2. Like Regula from the film, Madre cares for her sick daughter who doesn't walk or speak. In addition, a scream can be heard when first approaching Profundo Lamento, and we learn that it's a cry from Madre's child. This is the catalyst for Penitente to assemble the Lullaby of the White Shore to soothe the child. Next is the movie The Name of the Rose. Based on the novel of the same name, The Name of the Rose is a 1986 historical murder mystery set in the 14th century at a Benedictine abbey in Italy. It's the character Salvatore, played by Ron Perlman, that's referenced in Blasphemous. Do you know what enemy design took inspiration from the appearance of the hunchbacked monk Salvatore? It's the design of the enemy called the Monfrake, found in the patio of the Silent Steps in Blasphemous 1. The third film is the 1972 semi-autobiographical comedy drama Roma by Federico Fellini, in which a young Fellini recounts his youth in Rome. The inspiration for Blasphemous can be found in this infamous ecclesiastical fashion show scene, in which a noblewoman presents haute couture versions of Catholic vestments for members of the clergy. Of particular note are these unmanned vestments, in which the human is completely removed and focuses fully on the decadent garb. Which enemy design drew inspiration from these high-fashion vestments? It's the absent archbishop enemy found in the Basilica of Absent Faces in Blasphemous 2. The high-fashion designs were translated into the design of the absent archbishop and portraits that line the walls, which also fully remove the human and place full focus on the ornamentation and design of the garb. There might also be some commentary about fast fashion here. Next up is an obscure 1989 film called Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. The Last Crusade is an action film set in 1939 that follows Professor of Archaeology Indiana Jones as he searches for his father who is kidnapped during an expedition to find the Holy Grail. Blasphemous drew inspiration from the fictional artifact the Cross of Coronado, named after the real-life Spanish explorer Francisco Vázquez de Coronado. Do you know what religious icon in Blasphemous was inspired by the ornamentation of Coronado's cross? It's the symbol of the Twisted One, featured most prominently in Blasphemous 1. And before we continue, yes, you do have to give the video a like if you're currently commenting or thinking of commenting that the shape of the Twisted One symbol looks like the brand of sacrifice from Berserk. Berserk is not a film, but I respect the hustle. Now leave a like. For our fifth film, we have the 1956 drama Fedra by Manuel Mur-Oti. Based on the Roman tragedy Fedra, the film is about a young woman named Estrella who lives in a seaside fishing village in Spain. Her beauty and resistance to conform to life in the village make her a target for men and resented by the women of the village. And it's the women of the fishing village that Blasphemous draws inspiration from. Clad in black, they angrily pursue Estrella during the climax of the film out of resentment. What enemy do you think was inspired by these women? It's the Blasphemous 2 enemy, the Brokenness, It first appeared in the Mea Culpa DLC that draws inspiration from both the garb and accusatory posture of the women of the fishing village. Next is the 1961 surrealist comedy drama Viridiana by Luis Buñuel. The film is about a young nun named Viridiana who is summoned to her uncle's mansion before taking her final vows. Viridiana's faith is tested as she deals with her lecherous uncle and attempts to help beggars, and spoilers for a 65-year-old film, she ultimately turns away from becoming a nun as a result of her experiences. The film was banned in Francoist Spain and denounced by the Catholic Church when it was released for its criticism of the Catholic Church and the Spanish aristocracy. Do you know which blasphemous NPC was inspired by the character Viridiana? Unsurprisingly, it's the Blasphemous 1 NPC Viridiana that was inspired by this film. Not only does the NPC pay homage by borrowing the character's name, but in the film, Viridiana carries ashes in her sleep, and the NPC Viridiana's feet and mantle are covered by ash in the game. The seventh film is the 1992 psychological horror Fire Walk With Me by David Lynch. The movie is set as a prequel to the TV show Twin Peaks and follows the last week of Laura Palmer's life. What Blasphemous draws inspiration from is the title itself, Fire Walk With Me. This is also a phrase from Twin Peaks and is part of a chant that on a surface level is meant to invite dark spirits to oneself to better understand the universe. Do you know what boss took inspiration from this phrase? And bonus points, do you know in what form this phrase is referenced? The boss Quercy from Blasphemous 1 was inspired by this phrase, and it's through one of the corpses you can commune with in the Wall of the Holy Prohibitions that the phrase is referenced. I saw him approaching between the bars, I saw fire burst through his chest and scorch him, I saw fire burn again from thin air and fuse his skin. He walks with fire and fire with him. While I think the concept of a tortured soul eternally turned to ash and then reformed resonates with Twin Peaks, I see this as a general homage to the works of David Lynch, whose surreal and fragmented storytelling served as an inspiration for the storytelling of Blasphemous. And if you're interested in learning more about the artist that inspired the storytelling of Blasphemous, you can check out this interview I did with Blasphemous creative director Enrique Cabeza, linked above and below. Next, we have the 1973 horror film The Wicker Man. The movie is about cop Sergeant Neil Howie visiting the fictional Scottish island of Summerisle to investigate a missing girl where he finds himself embroiled in a pagan ritual. Blasphemous pulls inspiration from the design of the eponymous Wicker Man, a large-scale wicker statue that is burned as part of the harvest rite. So what Blasphemous boss design was inspired by the Wicker Man? It's of course the boss Exposito, Scion of Abjuration from Blasphemous 1. When baby Exposito's mother was being burned at the stake, she cried out begging someone to craft a wicker figure in her likeness to soothe the crying child. Beyond the obvious visual inspiration, there's an interesting parallel in referencing a movie where pagans burn a Catholic man for a story in which the very Catholic-coded Church of Custodia burns a pagan for supposedly being a witch. Goya would be proud. And now for our grand finale, we have a double feature in which two films are cited as inspiration for one character. And I must say that's very fitting for this character. We have the 2003 comedy horror Gozu by Takashi Miike and the 1990 action film Total Recall by Paul Verhoeven. In both instances, it's the visual design being referenced in Blasphemous, and a word of warning, they're both kinda gross. If you're here, I assume you're a Blasphemous fan, so gross shouldn't be a problem, but I figured I'd give a little warning. For Gozu, the inspiration is the visuals for this scene in which a grown man is being birthed. And for Total Recall, inspiration is drawn from the visual design of Quado, a mutant fused to the stomach of his conjoined twin George. Which Blasphemous NPC takes inspiration from these two films? It's of course Nacimiento from Blasphemous 1, who combines the dual pleasures of a tummy face and birthing an adult human. And there you have it, 10 films that inspired the Blasphemous games. How many did you already know? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video or even thought about the brand of sacrifice, please leave a like, and if you're on mobile you can hype the video to get more eyes on it. And if you want more videos like this, leave a comment saying you'll want more, and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing. And turn on notifications, because I don't know about you, but if I want to make sure I actually see videos from a creator, I have to have the bell clicked. As always, thanks for your support, thank the Miracle for Nacimiento, and thanks for watching.